some balls of fire moving around. They were meandering between the trees, but a ball shape light up as if it was just a ball of fire.
Those are just some witches that are around.
Rod, what do you think of when you hear the word witchcraft?
Fed. The first thing that comes to mind to me are witches and warlocks. Those that are telling stories, those that act either in a good way or in a very bad way.
You know, a lot of times I ask myself, how does someone start into the art of the witchcraft? And after doing research, I found this story that I'm certain that you are gonna find very interesting. This happened in Michoacan a couple of years ago. He says everything started to change when he was 10 years old. To have a little bit of his backstory, he lived with his 3 brothers with his grandma. His mom left them as soon as his dad died. He never knew his dad. He says that they were a very humble family. He remembers that even though they were humble, his grandma made sure that they never missed a meal. They always had clothes and the chance to go to school. For a poor family in Mexico, that's a lot. He tells us that his house had a dirt floor and the roof was made of a sheet metal. It was a very humble house. His grandma didn't care much about school. She rather tell them stories at night where she would share the knowledge that he had from their town in Michoacan. He says that was a favorite part of his days, when his grandma would tell them stories. They had a table outside in the patio where they ate supper. Michoacan is a very hot state, so for him having a table at the patio at night where they could eat supper and enjoy the fresh air, it meant a lot for him. One of those nights that they were eating outside, they saw on the hill that it was on site some balls of fire moving around. They were meandering between the trees. They will come close together and they will go in a very fast speed on different ways. They were moving all around.
Fed. So, like circles? Balls like the ones you bounce?
Maybe not a perfect sphere, but a ball shape light up as if it was just a ball of fire in the air floating and moving around like if it had its own mind. As soon as they saw this, their grandma told them,
Don't worry, kids. Those are just some witches that are around. Maybe you'll spend the rest of your lives in this town, and it's good for you to know that in the surroundings of these towns, there are witches.
He looked at his brothers having the same expression as he did. He immediately knew all of them were thinking the same thing. What does she mean, witches? Those are clearly balls of fire. As if she knew what the kids were thinking, she told them,
The witches are very bad persons that make a deal with the devil to have powers that no other human has. At night, they will detach their arms and legs by the fire. Some of them will get the wings of an owl, and others will get the parts of a pig. Some of them rather become balls of fire. They do this to serve their Lord. The sacrifices they make for their love are very great and very dangerous. And this way, they can do their job.
He, being only 10 years old, was very afraid and asked his grandmother, What do you mean, the job of a witch? And she told him,
Some of them take care of the problems of other people that cannot deal with them by themselves. Others do things to hurt people. And sometimes they do bad things only for the fun of it, because they know that's also another way to survive. They do this in exchange of money, food, clothing, things they might need, and that's the way they have to make a living.
After they finished eating and went to bed, he couldn't go to sleep. He would fall asleep and wake up right away because of the nightmares. On one of those occasions that he was awakened, he heard some noises coming from outside. So being very afraid, on the dark of the night, he stood up and decided to go look for his grandma, the only person that could calm him down. When he was walking to her room, he looked into the back patio and he saw her there. His grandma was outside, so he thought, must have been her the one that made those noises. So he went out of the house and went around to the back patio to find his grandma. When he got there, he couldn't find her. He looked all around, and then he saw light coming from the fire pit. So he walked over there. When he was close enough, he says that he saw the most horrifying scene he has ever seen in his life. There, on the floor, was a set of arms and one set of legs full of blood, and in front of the fire was the body of his grandma. When she noticed he was there, he turned around and winked at him. He was terrified, so he ran inside and covered himself with the blankets. He stayed there like that until he fell asleep. On the next morning, when he woke up, outside of his bedroom door was his grandma standing with a mug of coffee. When he woke out, he saw her and thought, it must have been a nightmare. Thank God she's okay. She reached out to him and told him, come on, let's go. She grabbed her hand and she pulled him very softly towards her. She went close to his ear and told him,
You shouldn't have seen what you saw last night. Now you know my secret. Now you know where I get the money from, the food, the clothing. I'm a very old woman, and providing for you and your brothers is really hard for me. I won't abandon you as your mother did. But now you need to keep my secret to yourself.
After that he told us that she told him her ways, but only to him. He is the only one to keep her legacy alive. Nowadays, he does witchcraft. He helps the people that he needs to help, but also punish those that need to be punished, as long as he gets paid what he deserves. What do you think about this, Rod?
I think it's very interesting how these people can fly as ball of fires while they detach from their body. But what I find more interesting is the boy who became a warlock himself. Now he works for money, but what else does he do?
Isn't it terrible that he is willing to hurt others as long as he gets paid?
I think it's terrible that any person hurts others. Some do it for free, others for money, but he does it with magic.